happy 55th anniversary to all of you. I was a little bit impressed by the comment of the pastor concerning giving of tithes and offerings. I always believe that in our lives as Christians we should balance the church and the state. They are what Dr. Calvert would call instruments of grace. We support the state because it provides justice and the preservation of life, and to support the state we give our taxes. The church, on the other hand, is tasked by the church, by God, to proclaim not only justice but justification by faith, and to support the church we have to give our tithes. We have no problem paying our taxes, but somehow we have problem giving our tithes. Perhaps because when you don't pay your tax, you can go to jail. When you don't pay your tithe, what happens to you? Nothing. Or perhaps without you knowing it, the withholding of the blessings of the Lord. You know, someone said that the last to be converted will be our money. We just came back from Cambodia, where we are so grateful about the new millennials that are engaged in mission there. But also we had the joy of visiting Coron, and was not as much fascinated by the place, but by the story of mission in Coron. How creative our people in interpreting missionaries of the early days. For example, the Katotobo translator was not able to speak in English quite well, and the missionary could not speak the dialect as well. So listen to the translation. The missionary says, "Repent, or you will not enter the kingdom of God, and the wrath of God will be upon you." How would you translate that? Repent. So the Katutubo said, repent. Kung hindi kayo magpapintura, repent. Okay? Repent. Repent. The wrath of God will be upon you. Wrath. Ang daga ng Diyos. One time he was looking at the missionary, and the missionary had an open bag, and the camera was about to fall. Now he wanted to warn the missionary that the bag was open, so how would he translate that? So he said, "Sir, your bag is tomorrow. Bukas, tomorrow. Sir, your bag is tomorrow." Translation is well taken. It had been quite some time since we were here. And I remember the first time I came here, at the choir loft, and there was a piano here on the right side. And there were no drums and guitars at the time. They were, as it were, banned by the Alliance because only the piano and the organs were authorized instruments from heaven. But things have changed quite a lot over the last 50 years. And we are grateful for the changes that we are coping up with ourselves. So we would like to congratulate you, and especially the congregation at the basement floor as well. We certainly are glad that we are able to celebrate with you at this time. I'd like to take a look at your theme, particularly for the book of Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 8 down the line. But I'd like to do a composite message based on the prophecy of Isaiah, and that of Habakkuk as well, in conjunction with Jeremiah. After all, Isaiah preceded Habakkuk and Jeremiah. But while Habakkuk and Isaiah anticipated the events of the exile in Babylon, only Jeremiah experienced actually the sufferings of the Babylonian exile. But the three prophets put forth for us a very good composite picture of what actually happened during that time. Let's put it this way. The context of your theme from Jeremiah is about the Jewish people in exile in Babylon. They were taken captive by the Chaldeans, or the Babylonians later on, because they have turned their back on God and have broken their covenant with God. And so because they have sinned, God will punish them. And God used as an instrument of justice the fierce and the cruel Chaldeans and Babylonians, which seems to suggest to us that perhaps there is relevancy in that type of principle to our current realities as well. How we desire that in nations around the world, Christians should be heads of states. But that is not always the case. As a matter of fact, in many instances where Christians are heads of states, they turn out not as good. In fact, if you take a look at Zambia, for example, the president who declared that the nation should be under the Lord Jesus Christ, 20 years later, no pastor would like to associate with him because of corruption. He was indicted in London, but at the same time nothing happened in Zambia itself. When a Christian president was elected in Guatemala, he was ousted in a coup d'etat because of corruption. You take a look at the president in Kenya, for example, who had been preaching in churches on a Sunday. Reader's Digest made the analysis that he was one of the most corrupt presidents in the whole continent of South Africa. It does not always follow, but on the other hand, even non-believers, our heads of states, can bless a nation primarily because these heads of states allow the church to become what God intended to be. For as long as there is freedom of religion and freedom to proclaim the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, somehow God blessed that nation. But at the end, when the people of God themselves would sin against God, God is free to choose his instrument of justice to punish his people. In this particular case, he chose the Chaldeans to punish God's people. However, the instrument of justice is not exempt from the justice of God himself. So much so that even if you are used to punish God's people because of corruption and because of all the other sins in government, you must be aware that the way you conduct your own self will be also judged by God in the end. So we ask ourselves the question today, how should we live in the midst of some of our problems in the nation and in the world today? For us as the church, for example, how can we be a better light, and how can God use us in a very special way? If you take a look at Jeremiah chapter 30 to 32, they are considered as the comfort passages of the book of Jeremiah. They represent the pinnacle of Jeremiah's prophecy to the nations itself, because he spoke about something that was coming. That time is coming. And he spoke about the new covenant. He spoke about the coming of the Messiah himself. And so in that sense, any relevancy to the message is dealing with the new covenant and the Messiah that was coming. For certainly we have the right to ask the question, how can an Old Testament text, written about 600 years before the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ, or in that case, about 2,600 years from our own time right now, how can they be relevant to us? You begin to ask, for example, or remind yourself of what the philosopher Santayana once said, ignorance of history deserves its repetition. And we need to learn about what happened then. But then again, the philosopher Hegel seems to suggest to us that the one thing that we learn about history is that we don't learn anything from it. And in that sense, we keep on repeating the cycle of sin and forgiveness and sin and backsliding and so on and so forth. But the New Testament declares that the Old Testament was written for our instruction, and therefore it is our hope today that we can learn from the Old Testament passages because they are relevant to us as well. So in that sense, we don't make this kind of distinction that the old and the new are unequally inspired. They are one story of God, and we must learn from both of them. The message today is very simple. And if you want to remember, the message is something like this. Remember the past. Remember to forget the past. Remember not to forget what you need to remember. Is that all right with you? But that is the message today. 3 points. Remember the past. Remember not to forget the past. And remember not to forget what you need to remember. Okay? And before I do that, please thank Bong and Lulu, for they will operate with me tomorrow, so my future depends on both of them. Remembering God's deeds. Now, Isaiah was very clear about that, especially in the context of celebration. Now, if you were the exiles in Babylon at the time, you were under a foreign power, perhaps the greatest empire at the time, very cruel, and yet at the same time, in God's mercy, allowed a degree of freedom for the people of God in Babylon itself. If you were the Babylonians at the time, how would you feel You are the people of God. He was sovereign. He is almighty, all-powerful. And yet his people, his chosen ones, are in captivity. It is a contradiction in terms that God himself being your Lord, and yet you are the captives of the worst power of the dead. And so they have without hope. And so some false prophets will argue by saying that since God needs to be worshipped, and since the temple is in Jerusalem, therefore we will be restored to Jerusalem because only then can we worship God there. So they were able to localize God in their own thinking. They forgot who God really is. They think that the only way God can be real to them was to go back into Jerusalem, and so some of the false prophets would say, 2 years. And Jeremiah said, well, I don't want to cut your optimism, but the reality is you will not be here in Babylon for 2 years, you will be here for 70 years. And so if you were about your exile, how would you feel? You needed encouragement at that time. And so Jeremiah came around and said, hey, wait a minute, there's hope for you. Remember who your God is and what he did in the past for you. Now, the prophet Isaiah, for example, in chapter 6, gave to us his vision of the holiness of God. Now, time and time again, we have to remind ourselves that God is spirit. He could not be seen by the naked eye, and yet God condescended himself to reveal his holiness in some form or the other, like the smoke that filled the temple and so on and so forth. But as far as Isaiah was concerned, his vision of God was a God who is holy. A.W. Tozer, for example, some years ago would say that the missing jewel of the church today is worship. Now, we find that worship is the center of many churches today, whether you're conservatives or charismatics. But I would suggest to you that the missing jewel of the church today is holiness. We no longer are afraid of God. We have learned to domesticate God ourselves. Jesus Christ is our friend. He is friendly. And so when we break the word of the Lord, it doesn't matter to us because we have a very friendly God. We don't look at him as a holy God who militates against human sin. And so in this case, they were punished because of that. But Jeremiah gave us hope. And Jeremiah said, 70 years you will return. But Isaiah was very clear in saying that, remember the past. And the example of the past was Abraham and Sarah. How faithful God to Abraham and Sarah, their forebears, as it were. Abraham was old, and Sarah was old, and Sarah was barren. And to them God gave the promise that through your descendant, through your seed, your descendants will be as numberless as the stars and as countless as the sands on the shore. Now, humanly speaking, you have to set the question, how can that be? We are old people. My wife is past childbearing. On top of that, she is barren. So how could that be? And yet God said, you will have a seed. And the promise of God is what they were holding on. They laughed at the prospect of a miracle. And perhaps some of us here today are laughing at the prospect of a miracle because we are in situations that are impossible. We forget that impossibilities are opportunities for God to perform a miracle. And this is where he said, remember the past. When you remember the past, it was an impossible situation, and yet God fulfilled his promise. When the appointed time came, Sarah conceived of a child. And then the promise of God to Abraham, when he called him in Genesis chapter 12, you will be the father of nations, and you will bless the families of the earth. All of a sudden, those were dependent upon the one seed that God promised them, and the Messiah came through Jesus Christ. But that seed precisely was the Messiah in the interpretation of the New Testament. And so with God, nothing's impossible. I don't know what our situation right now, but the thing about it is that, remember your past, how God dealt with you. Now, when you take a look at that, you remember what God did to the Israelites. Remember your story. You got people yourself. You forget very easily that you were slaves in Egypt. And after 400 years of slavery, all of a sudden God told Moses and delivered you from the clutches of one of the worst empires of the day. And so the first exodus took place across the sea, into the desert, into the promised land. Again, an impossible situation. They were under the most powerful empire of that time, under the Egyptians, and yet God told Moses, and he delivered them by the power of God. Remember how you were told. In fact, God will say, remember how you really started. God said, you were not many in number, but I've chosen you out of my love and mercy and grace. And so all of us are here today because of the love and the grace of the Lord. We are not here because of our merit. We are not here because we are good people. In fact, I think David was right when he asked the question, why are you so good to us? Is it because we are really good people? Or is it because God is gracious and merciful to all of us? So remember your past, but the context of remembering the past is not so much that you talk about past, present, and future. It's not just a matter of time, but remember the past in the content of the past with respect to God's people. The content of the past of the Jewish people was they had a God who was sovereign, who was provident, and who was able to do impossible things. In other words, when you remember your past, remember who God really is to you. How we acted in your life, in our church, CCAC. When you take a look at the brief comment of Abigail and the others, they will talk about the faithfulness of God to CCAC throughout the years. You were not exempt from problems yourself. We have trials, and we will continue to have trials. But yet remember the past. Do not give up on God. Do not give up on yourself. Because God is saying, when you remember the past, remember who is there and who is there. Now he said, remember to forget. Why did he say remember to forget? He just said remember. Now he said remember to forget. I would suggest you there are three reasons perhaps why God said remember to forget. Number one, because we have to let go of the pains and the problems of the past. We have experiences of the past that are haunting us today, wounds that will not close. Until we close the door of the past, we cannot enter the door of the future. And we need to let go. We need to forget those pains and hurts and problems and sufferings and divisions and all that. Because if we will not forget them, then all of a sudden we are bound by the past. The past we cannot undo. The past we can learn from, but the past need not bind us in God's plan for the church into the future. But the second thing, perhaps, I would suggest why we must remember to forget is this. Oftentimes, God will bless us with so many blessings. Years ago, when we were here, there were only about 300 of us. Now you are 500, 600, and by and large, you'll be growing some more. I see many more young people, and that is good for us. But remember this, that we have gone through so much, and God has given us victories as well. But those victories can paralyze us into inaction. Because we will be satisfied with our status quo, we'll be satisfied with who we are. We have now an air-cooled place, we now have buildings, and our properties are appreciating in value. If we are not careful, there's a very thin line between the glory of God and our own self-glory. If we are not careful, we become narcissistic. We become so much in love with ourselves that without our knowing it, we no longer love the others who need more love from God. And so he said, be very careful about your success. It can be your own downfall at the same time. But so he said, number two, forget the past in the sense that forget your success. Now, that is not saying that the past is deleted from your memory. Carbonell, for example, one of our poets would say, the past, no matter how distant, is never there. It will always be there in our memory. But at the same time, what God is saying, choose not to forget. Choose to forget at the same time. We choose to forget selectively the things that will not help us. And in that sense, remember to forget. But there's another thing that we must remember to not to remember to forget. And that is the fact that we got confused ourselves. We no longer, okay, Pastor June, which one will remember, which one will we forget? Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you are to remember the past and to forget the past, then we must also not forget, at least at this time, that God is also working in our midst today. Isn't it? He was active in the past, but he's also active today. You know, God said, I am doing something new. So, we forget the past because of a tendency to close the door of the future. We forget the past because of a tendency for self-love and to glorify ourselves and not God. But we must also forget the past in the sense that we think God only acted in the past, when God is saying, but I'm also in the midst of you now. In the present tense, I'm active in your lives, in your families, and so on and so forth. But beyond that, what God is saying is, I'm the God of newness. I am doing something new as well. Don't forget that. We celebrate God's goodness to CCAC after 55 years. And some of you were here perhaps from the very inception, although it's hard to find out who were here on the first year of CCAC. Anyone here? 55 years with CCAC already? Now you recall, for example, that in 1900, when the missionaries first came, after the defeat of the Spaniards by the Americans, they created the Comedy Agreement, and the alliance was assigned Sulu, Hulu, and South Mindanao. But there was one city that was open city for all denominations, and that was Metro Manila. The first Alliance Church here was the garage of Pasay City Alliance Church. All of a sudden it moved to CCAC, and CCAC became the central church of the Alliance for so many years, up to the present time. And so we have so much to be grateful about. But do not forget that God is also the God of newness. He will do something new. He will be able to create better things for CCAC ahead of you. Now let's take a look at the third point, and this is simply the fact that you must remember not to forget what you need to remember. In other words, let's move ahead and to claim this newness that comes from God. The first thing that the people of God must remember is this. They must remember and not to forget that they were in Babylon because of their own doings in the first place. It was their sin that led them to Babylon as a punishment of God. But secondly, the positive side of that is they were not to forget that God, despite their sins, have committed himself as a faithful God of the covenant who will restore his people. And that is why in the chapter of comfort in Jeremiah, chapter 30, for example, he spoke about this in verse 19. Out of them shall come songs of thanksgiving and the voices of those who celebrate. I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. I will make them honored, and they shall not be small. Now, that is a future event, something that is anticipated by the prophets, that in the future, God will restore his people from their exile into the promised land once again. Sometimes the loss of the old scares all of us because we feel threatened and displaced. But God is saying, regardless, I'm still the God of newness. I'm doing something new. Watch for it. Nobody knows the shape of our future in between the times. But there's one thing that is constant in the midst of these changes in time. And the constant is God is constant. He never changes. And that is something that we have to appreciate because of the changes that take place in the midst of us, and God remains faithful to us. There will be corridor of crisis as we move into the future, as we grow some more. The moment we grow, then the exponential number of relationships increase as well, and therefore the possibilities of problems increase also. But the point is that regardless, we must embrace that newness and the problems that come along with us. Until then, let's go out in joy and be led back in peace. I think the theologian Brugman once said, when he was speaking to a church, and I like what he said, go out from the fears that divide you, go out from the quarrels unresolved, go out from the old sins unforgiven, go out from the old decisions that have wounded, go out from old memories that have become graven images, go out into God's new and demanding mission. Go the way of Abraham, to a new way and place of life. Go out laughing with Mother Sarah, surprised by new life. Go out to your neighbors waiting for a caring act of generosity. As we move ahead, let us remember, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. There are dangers in forgetting what we must remember. There is danger in remembering what we must forget. We need God's wisdom to know the difference. But this I know, there is danger in staying when you must move to pursue God's newness in your life. Now, how do we apply this to CCAC at this time? CCAC is not just about you and me. CCAC is greater than you and me. CCAC is about God and His work entrusted to you and to me. It's not just about our generation, but the generation that will follow us. The world has survived the transitions of generations from CCAC to the baby boomers to the millennials today, and there will be new names and new labels ahead of us. And we will go through them because we cannot avoid them, but we will at the same time succeed and be victorious over them. God unseen with the naked eye in our midst is working out His purpose, greater purpose for CCAC. If He released Israel from the bondage of Egypt, if He restored Israel from the bondage in Babylon, you and I can be free as well. I do not know what are the bondages that we have in the past and the individual problem that we have, but I do know in the future, Jehovah Shammah is there also. It is something that we keep on saying to ourselves as we journey. God will be before you. God will be with you. God will be in you. God will not forsake you. People at this time on our journey towards heaven itself. Until then, we remain in bondage to the realities of our times as well. What he was saying is build houses. In other words, for pilgrims, to build houses is a contradiction in that, because you will not last there in the first place. But he said build houses and live in them. Now, of course, because if you have money, you can buy condos and rent them. That's still all right, I think. But build houses and enjoy your home. Plant vineyards. In other words, enter the season and the rhythm of your society. Be businessmen, be professionals, be the best that you can. Be productive, contribute to the economy of your nation, contribute to the growth of the Philippines in that sense. And I suggest to you, plant vineyards and enjoy the fruits of your labor. You cannot enjoy the fruits of your labor unless you are also socio-politically advocate of justice and peace. Because if you can produce and then others will take it away from you, then you are not talking about the plant your vineyards and enjoy the fruit. And then he said, marry. Now, to marry in exile is a contradiction in terms also, because you don't want children to grow up in bondage. But yet at the same time, says, marry. Do not decrease, but increase. Now, if we apply that in a spiritual sense, what I like to tell you is that do not be satisfied with a crowded church. They're only holding service on Sunday. There are 6 other days. Maybe you can double your number, triple your number. Why not? The point simply is that marry, multiply, grow without any limit. Do not say, well, I think I'll stop evangelizing for a while because we no longer have seats for the newcomers. Would that be a good problem? Do not decrease. Marry. And you notice that the increasing of number is based on marriage. Do not increase outside of marriage. Is that all right, young people? If you have to increase, it must be in the context of marriage itself. And then he said, pray to the Lord, seek the welfare of the city. CCAC, we should be the leaders in godly citizenship, to be engaged. I am very grateful that the Alliance men, congratulations to the new president, that the Alliance men are concerned about Tamako, about how we can be better, how we can grow more. But I suggest to you that we can also go beyond Tamako into the larger national life of our nation. You have potential. You can provide leadership as well for the nation. Who knows, maybe among the young people here, there will be generals and congressmen and senators and even presidents. And hopefully you will not be corrupted. Because the ineptitude of government to deal with corruption and addictions and all kinds of problems have led to a very radical solution in our country today. But the point one simply is that rise up to the challenge. And then he said, pray for the welfare of the city, because when it prosper, you too will prosper. You notice the order of prosperity. As far as Jeremiah was concerned, prosper the city and the church will prosper. It's not the other way around, that you prosper the church and you prosper the city. Somehow in the order of things, it looks like a paradox. Seek the welfare of the city. If there is justice and peace, then you will also prosper yourself. If the country is prosperous, then the church will be prosperous as well. And I think that's the order in which we have to be involved ourselves. We cannot afford not to engage. We have to engage in that sense. That is why today the Alliance and many other denominations, including those in Cambodia, they are talking about the marketplace, and I suggest to you, it has always been there, called by a different name, but if we want to transform the nation, it begins with our homes, it begins with our workplaces. It's about time that we take a look at our workplaces. Why? Because theologically it is not tenable not to be engaged in our workplaces, because if God is everywhere, before you arrive at the office, He's already there. And if you are in Christ Jesus, the Spirit is already in you. In other words, there's no place that God doesn't want to be under control. That's why we have to be engaged and we have to be involved ourselves. And so, with all this, what we are to end up is this. Let us celebrate. I like that text, for example, in verse 19. Songs of thanksgiving and voices of those who celebrate. I will multiply them. Let it be prophetic to you. God will multiply you. God will give you songs of thanksgiving, and then you will celebrate. Yeah, the poet Lucille Clifton, for example, wrote, and he said, come celebrate with me, for every day something tries to kill me, and have faith. That doesn't sound like a poem that is rhymed quite well, but the message is very good. He said, millions of diseases try to kill us, from blood pressures to cancers to tumors to whatever it is. But they have faith. We are still here, we are still alive. And he said, when you deal with traffic in the cities today, especially in Metro Manila, and you know that the city is prosperous because of the worst traffic that is developing. And the way we solve our problem is to let Pacquiao fight every day. And there's no traffic on the street. Despite the acts of criminality and addictions and kidnapping for ransom, we're still alive today. Are we not going to celebrate about that? You were burned in the past. You were betrayed by friends you failed and others. And I suggest to you, we're still alive. We should celebrate. We survived ourselves. We made wrong decisions in the past. We made personal mistakes. We made bad choices. We had indiscretion, our hurts, and negative thoughts, and yet today, we are alive. We survive. So we celebrate, don't you think so? We celebrate that every day many things try to kill us, and still we are alive. Those have faith. But in Jeremiah's context, he said, let's celebrate. People of God, let's celebrate. Open your eyes to the goodness of the Lord to CCAC for the last 55 years. Celebrate the blessings that are yours in the present moment. Celebrate the Lordship of Jesus Christ in your lives, in your families. Celebrate the unchanging Word of God to guide us. And celebrate the fellowship that is ours in Capital City Alliance Church. Celebrate that we are one big family. And as a family, there will be concern, there will be disagreements at times, but let's celebrate that we can disagree without being disagreeable to each other. Let's celebrate that in this church, for as long as we are here, the presence of God is here, because the Bible speaks to us that when two or three are gathered, there He is in the midst of them. We're not just talking about something out there that we claim that God's presence is there, but God is really saying that if you truly believe in the Word of God, whenever you gather on a Sunday, then you must experience the presence of the Lord. But let me put it this way. Let us celebrate that we can gather on a Sunday, but let us celebrate that we are scattered on the weekday in order that we can be the people gathered and scattered to reach the nation for Jesus Christ and the world as well. Let us celebrate that while we have problems, we have more than problems. Nobody here has no problems. But we have problems. But we have more than problems. We have God. We have Jesus. We have the Spirit of the Lord that's going to help us. We have God before us. We have God with us. And He will always be with us. We have the promise of God that ahead of us is not just problems, but the promise is that there will be a new heaven and a new earth and a new Jerusalem. That is is our future, that is our destiny. That is something that we walk into. But until we have our destiny fulfilled, we are going to rejoice and celebrate. Therefore, stop frowning. Someone said, when you talk about heaven, let your faces shine and glow. When you talk about hell, your ordinary faces will do. I wonder if our faces are ordinary this morning. Let's celebrate. This is 55 years of God's goodness. Let us smile. Let's celebrate. Let's give God the glory. Let the sound of laughter reverberate in the sanctuary. And beyond this church, the waves will roar and the trees will clap their hands because of the glory of the Lord. CCAC, people of God, let's celebrate like the trees. Clap your hands, very loud.